Hello and welcome to Analysing Avatar The Last Airbender. Dan here, joined as always by the late airbender himself. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. Well, I'll be honest with you, mate. I'm a little bit annoyed.
Annoyed?
Yeah, I mean, we had the Great Divide last week, and now we've just another filler episode. With just nothing related to the mythology, just pure story of the week nonsense.
Yep, we could absolutely have skipped this one. We wouldn't have known the difference.
No.
So this is The Storm, for those who don't remember which episode we're on. This is, of course, the episode in which we find out the sort of backstories for both Aang and Zuko, who are both through a storm forced to sort of remember their pasts, because they the story, sort of the narrative of this episode sort of forces them both to consider their pasts. It manages to be both a flashback episode and a really decent story of its own. The parallels it draws between the two are kind of amazing. I'll put it this way, straight up front. My card's on the table. I love this episode. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I really liked it. Well, do you want to give that's the recap? Yeah, I think that's enough of a recap.
This is enough information. We'll probably discuss some of the details as we go through it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I need to give too much more detail than that at this time.
Do you? Because I loved it too. Let's get to launch right in with discussion, right? Because I loved it too. I thought it was great. My big sort of question, and it is a question, not a criticism, because I don't know where I land on this, and clearly you very much land a certain way. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's definitely enough parallels or indeed juxtaposition between the two origin stories to justify doing them both in one episode, as opposed to getting more time with both stories and space in their individual episodes? Because this is like a lot of reveals and a lot of backstory in one. Yeah, that's my
20 minutes,
question.
21 minutes. I can see that concern, and I could feel somebody almost enjoying it enough to sort of think, God, what could they have done if we'd have gotten these separately and been able to sort of really, dive even deeper. I think there are enough parallels, because I think I think, and this might sound very surface, but I think this is really important to both of those characters. They both have regrets, and they're the reverse of each other's. Zuko did the right thing and was punished for it. Aang did the wrong thing and was punished for it. And they're now both on those other paths. But there's a little bit of that original rebellion inside each of them. Aang chose to run away. He chose essentially the coward's path. And while you can debate all you want, and I'm sure people have, whether that was right or wrong, I actually very much agree with the argument put at the end of this episode. When they talk about you can't sit around playing if, buts, ands, and whens. Like, you can't predict what would have happened had you stayed in a place, So you just have to work with what you've got. That was the choice you made. You've just got to work with it. It's no point dwelling on that. But ultimately, Aang did choose to run away. And Zuko did choose to speak up for what was right. And it was almost like there was a flicker of the villain in Aang and a flicker of the hero in Zuko. And the idea that weighs on them both in reverse is actually it's proper yin yang. They are two sides of the same coin. And even though the two stories don't directly parallel, Zuko doesn't have the pressure thrust onto him at a young age that Aang does. He's seeking it out. So there aren't as many direct story parallels. I think the emotional arc they both go through in this episode's parallel beautifully. And I'm not sure I would want them separated and lose that, because that comparison is kind of subtle in this episode. When they lock eyes right at the end of the episode, what the episode is trying to tell you, that there's something between them, that they've had. There is something connecting their pasts, in a sort of ethereal way, but it's very vague. It's never spelled out, and I feel like if you put them in separate episodes, I don't think you'd ever see the genius of how clever it is that their stories are sort of the other side of each other's coins.
But I'm not sure how it would be. Can you remember? Because now that you've said all that, I can see it, and it's kind of sitting with me more. I mean, we have gone literally from. I literally finished the episode, and then we started speaking on the phone. So like, there is an element of I haven't sat with it for that long. Do you think you felt like that immediately after, or do you think that's the benefit that comes from either the whole package or watching this episode a minimum 4 times that I'm aware of? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so hard to say, because I think when I started watching this show, the first season would have been at least aired. I think I joined either as the first season was ending or sometime early in the second season. I even remember where I found out about the show. Oh, this sounds so nerdy. I was at a comic book store that was having a D&D evening, which I was not participating in, but I was present for. Shrug.
Nothing wrong with
that. And I was and someone at the comic book store who has since gone on to draw some really cool like Ninja Turtles comics and stuff in the UK, which I think is like awesome. Like was telling me how great this show was, and the thing they kept talking about was how good the villain was, and how they were keeping him sort of out of your immediate eye line, but still making him seem really intimidating. Referring to the Fire Lord, obviously. And I was just like, that sounds fascinating for a kids show. That sounds way more subtle than, to use the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles example, since it's right there. Shredder in his Technodrome going, "Damn you turtles, I'll get you next time." I kind of liked that idea in a kids show. So I dug it out shortly thereafter. But I remember watching, I think, a lot of, at least the first season, pretty much in bulk. So to answer your question in the long-windedest way possible, I don't think I got to really think too much about it at the time. Maybe I would have felt exactly like you, where I'd have gone, "Oh God, maybe I just want to," because it's a very understandable feeling, isn't it? To go, "Oh, give me more." Like this is juicy stuff.
Yeah,
like,
which is sort of how, because I guess I was thinking about it more from, arguably incorrectly, more from the practical what happened, and I'm like, he chose to speak up, he chose to run away, and I guess there is a parallel there. But then what then happens to them? Do you know what I mean? But I think actually hearing the way you described it, it's like, oh no, there are a lot of parallels, and but it did feel like, and all joking aside, maybe it's because it kind of hits you round the head after the last episode, but I was like, whoa, fuck, like, okay, we're doing, do you know what I mean? This wasn't, I did have enough time, but if the phone call I was on before watching it had gone on a little bit longer, I was like, this is not the episode to have nearly cut fine, like...
Yeah, I could see that. Like, you'd almost want to sort of like your initial reaction versus your reaction once you've had some time to digest. It'll be different.
Because obviously this, as far as I'm aware, at least, if it's come up before, I didn't pay attention. But as far as I'm aware, this is the first time that it's been revealed that Fire Lord is Fire Dude's dad, right?
Well, he's Prince Zuko.
Oh, yeah. I just had to put that together.
Being the prince would probably make him the... I guess if Fire Lord Ozai was called Fire King, maybe that would...
I was going to say, yeah, he's Fire Lord, not King Fire. If he was called King Fire, I'd be like, oh.
King Fire. This week I uploaded, for those listening, you'll be hearing this in, January, but we're recording this... Shoulda on Election Day 2020.
I kind of, before we started because we were talking about the election before we started recording, and then Lily said at the beginning, like, oh, probably shouldn't bring it up, because every time we're recording on the day of some form of election or vote, either in the UK or the US, it never goes the way we want it to.
Yeah, that's true. I don't believe that's sort of jinxing, but yeah, we've had some bad luck with these, haven't we? Recording these on the day of, sounding all hopeful on a podcast, and then the next podcast being all defeated. We have no idea.
My favourite go-to was, we used to do an episode of Nothing But Static where we would get drunk after doing our awards ceremony.
I forgot about
and
it.
we got hammered the night of the Brexit election, and I have never more slowly and depressingly sobered up before even sleeping over the course of the evening. as quite like watching Brexit coverage, starting pissed and then slowly sobering up as it became apparent where that result was going.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyway, I don't even want to get into that. That's so depressing. But the reason I say this is just because, like, I've only just started uploading the episodes. Basically, is the reason I gave people that date context. I didn't want to I didn't want to say November 3rd and not address the election, but at the same time, this is part of my avoiding doom scrolling today, so I'm not going to have a big political chat on this podcast. But the reason I say that is because, I only just recently uploaded all the episodes, and I put in one or two of the descriptions because there's always like a plus. So it's like, this week we discuss the name of the episode, plus, and then an extra thing we talk about. And in some of the episodes, I got real lazy and just wrote, and Chris is still calling him Fire Dude and Uncle Fire Dude.
Right.
That's literally in the description of the episodes. So I like the idea that we've got Fire King now.
Yeah, I was going to say, Fire King should stick. Absolutely.
So Fire Lord Ozai, it hadn't necessarily, you hadn't drawn the line between those two things. And I guess that is actually, now I think about it, at first that sounds like he's the prince. What did you think? But actually, that's actually really understandable, because you're right. There's Fire Lord and Prince don't necessarily. There could be a king and a prime minister type figure, like the way we have, queen and a prime minister in this country. So it's not completely.
Also,
although they may have also said it, but we'll pretend that's.
I've been calling him Fire Dude for 11 weeks as well. Like. You know what
I
mean?
Yeah, I guess Prince Zuko as a name hasn't stuck anyway. Yeah, that's true.
So it's certainly not the implications of what it would mean. But I thought that was a cool revelation for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance they've said it in multiple episodes. But either way,
his origin in general was great.
Yes.
I really liked that. Aang's, you sort of almost. Aang's, you kind of go, if I was probably asked to predict this, I would have said this. And that's a good thing, by the way, because that shows how well they've written the character, and that shows how consistently they've written the character. But I think Fire Dudes was a really inventive, as you said, to indicate there's some good within him, and to make that be his. It's a very tragic origin, especially when you think about the fact that he's a kid in those flashbacks. So these flashbacks don't take place at the same time, which means that presumably from the age he was in the flashbacks to the age he was in episode 1, they were just endlessly roaming about looking for an avatar that there were no clues for because he was trapped in a load of ice, which is really tragic and depressing.
I put that in my notes. It was almost like saying you're banished until you can prove leprechauns exist. Like his dad kind of like, it's interesting because if you were to go back now and watch the first episode, not the first episode of the show, but the first episode where he meets Zhao, which I think is the 3rd episode of the show, and Zhao's like, "Oh, you're off on your sorry quest for the Avatar." It all fits a lot better if you go back and look at that episode now, because. Yeah, he's literally off on like a fool's errand until the end of that episode when Aang activates those statues. That's the first indication that the Avatar has returned. Because if you remember rightly, it lights up a statue, the Roku statue in the Fire Nation, and those monk guys, I forgot what they called, the keepers of that area. They alerted the Fire Nation to Aang being actually back, and then all of a sudden it's taken a lot more seriously. But prior to that, when you see how Zhao treats Zuko in episode 3, it's so dismissive. It's like, it's like a kid that's been, given a coloring book to keep him out of the way, basically. And that is super tragic because he was very young in that when he was burnt / banished, and it's evident he's been looking for the Avatar ever since. And suddenly, everything he's done, his obsessive nature, it all fits. And what I think is great about this episode is it doesn't completely dismiss there being still some of that initial good in Zuko. Zuko got into that situation because he wasn't willing to put the lives of loyal Fire Nation soldiers at risk for a cheap victory over the Earth Nation in this one battleground. He didn't think that was a good thing to do, morally. So he spoke up. He was punished for that. And at the start of this episode, he's like, we're going after the Avatar. I don't care if people die. That's the cost of war. And for a lot of the episode, you're thinking like, oh god, like he's gone, like the lesson he was taught, his dad kind of did almost beat it into him to be more ruthless. But this episode ends brilliantly with him having the opportunity to chase Aang and choosing not to save his men. It's the same dilemma come back again, but he makes the same choice. So you just go, well, okay, bad guy, good guy, not so black and white in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Zuko is a bad guy. He is happy to catch the Avatar for the glorious Fire Nation, sort of army, so they can continue to press forward and take over the world. Right? That's bad. He's a bad guy. He is a villain.
But that's not why he's doing it. He's willing
Exactly.
to capture. He's willing to capture the Avatar to be accepted back into his people and his home.
Correct.
Like,
yeah,
it's nature versus nurture,
Yeah, 100%, and it's so complex, and it's taken a character that's not exactly felt one note, but has not yet had that level of depth, and absolutely ballooned him up. And that's what it's interesting. You picked up on that when you were initially talking. You were sort of saying, like, so you've got Aang, and you kind of already understood Aang's depth, and you kind of figured what had happened to him when he was younger. It kind of fitted what you already knew, because we've explored his character quite a lot. This is really our first attempt to peel the onion that is Zuko, to borrow a terrible metaphor. And it's brilliant for it. I genuinely, I love this episode so much. I think there's so much good stuff in this. And it's not just got the flashbacks and all that character work, which is obviously the heart of it, but there's some great jokes in this episode. There's some good action in this episode. It's got fucking everything.
Yeah, I love when it's like, I'm going to rescue them. I'm coming too. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, and I wrote that one down, and then I also wrote down, I'm too young to die. I'm not, but I still don't wanna.
Yeah.
Which is just a brilliant line. That old couple are like absolute comedy gold in this episode.
Brilliant. I must admit though, when it first started, bearing in mind, like for those that don't know, we've obviously, Dan and I have just finished the Steven Universe podcast, which ended on Steven Universe Future. So when this first started and Aang's having like his bad dreams, I'm like, oh man, I've had enough animations with childs with psychological war damage for a little while. Like, yeah, we're going down this route, are we?
What did you think to the Aang stuff in general then? Like, obviously putting aside that you kind of could have guessed a lot of it.
No,
maybe.
I like the Aang stuff a lot. I just really kind of like, for the reasons you've said, took to the fire dude stuff. But I think the Aang stuff was great. I love the mentor figure. And,
Gyatso. Mm-hmm.
Taking that away from him, very Harry Potter. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did this come first before Harry Potter? That would have been a similar time, probably, wouldn't it?
So this started in 2007?
Oh, way after then. Sorry, yeah. Harry Potter was like the 90s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, late 90s, I think.
So
I wasn't sure if there was a specific storyline from a specific Harry Potter book, because I think the last Harry Potter book or two might have crossed over with this. Maybe I have to look at the dates, but
no, I just mean. Oh yeah, well, to be fair, but I just mean how they slowly get rid of any father figure in Harry's life. Spoilers.
Yeah.
So
even ones they've just introduced.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Jesus. Feelings about J.K. Rowling aside, that book series. Fuck, like.
Yeah, it's brutal,
Jesus. It looks like Deathly Hallows came out the year Avatar started, 2007.
Okay, cool. But I thought the Aang stuff was very clever. It was a bit. Yes. I was surprised to see like the sheer lack of time. I suppose the area where it felt most, oh, this is a lot, this is quick, is Aang's told, fucking stupid system, by the way. Jesus. If a child picks up a knife and fork from a list of toys, does that mean they're going to be a chef? I mean, yeah. But anyway.
Well, we'll talk about that, because that's actually a reference to Buddhism.
Oh, okay. Well, now I feel like a cock. Jesus, Dan. Now I feel like I'm being offensive.
Well,
to
I mean,
Buddhism.
look, my options there were to tell you sooner, so you stop saying it. that it's connected to a real religion, or let you carry on and then drop that bomb later in the podcast. Which would you have preferred?
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't realise that. I apologise.
No, it's fine. I kind of agree. It's kind of like I think the problem and the reason you immediately butted up with that is the same reason I did, because I just kind of went, what if someone just picks those items by luck?
Yeah.
We think you're the Avatar. Really? Right. We're going to shoot fire at you. Can you bend it? Yeah, I think so. I'm the Avatar, right? Yes, you are. Oh no, we've made a horrible mistake.
But the sheer speed, like, yes. I always got the impression he'd had a bit more time knowing he was the Avatar.
Yes, right.
Than, the sheer speed of, I found out, I don't like it, training sucks, I'm running away. Oh, okay. Like, it just kind of, I guess in the early episodes, it feels like there's this real depth and history there. And to kind of see it all and go, oh, it's a bit like people's upset with the reason Nick Fury wears an eye patch in the MCU. And it's like, well, I don't think any answer at this point is gonna satisfy.
Yeah.
But it felt like there was more time and weight to that than this flashback would suggest. And to be fair, the counter to that is, well, we don't know how long the training went on for. Absolutely. But it's certainly
it couldn't have been too long, though, because he doesn't seem to have aged a great deal.
No, and it's not. It's certainly not presented as it being too long either.
There is another counter argument to that. I would give, and this would be a matter of opinion. I think somebody could debate this and not this. But when I look back on the first episodes of the show now, with this episode in mind, the very first two where he comes out the ice, his reluctance to say he's the Avatar, his reluctance to sort of do any Avatar-y things, feels like someone who found out 2 weeks ago is the Avatar and hasn't quite accepted it yet. It sort of recontextualizes his behavior in the first few episodes, because you sort of go, oh, he's just found out. Like, he is. And even then, what's interesting about that, and this episode covers this as well. Sorry, Chris, you might have just heard a lot of noise. I was scratching my head in my headphone, but my headphone has the speaker out that you hear me through, so sorry if you heard that.
No, don't worry, it was quite loud, but it's fine.
Okay. So the throw my complete. Oh yeah. So the average Avatar, the way it would normally work is they would identify them young, let them grow up normal, and then at the age of 16, drop that information on them and start their training. Which I feel like is a good balance of, like, you don't want them to find out too late in life because you want them to be still young and malleable enough to learn all the stuff they're going to need to learn, but you also don't want to burden a 12-year-old, right? So there's this extra element as well now of, like, so it's unusual that he had to find that out so young. So he's also sort of suffered in a Steven Universe way of having to have a lot of pressure put on him from a very young age that isn't normal. And again, that recontextualizes his behavior in the very first episode once you have that in mind, because you just go, wow, he just found out he's literally the Avatar, and suddenly then it's 100 years later and everyone has died and it's kind of his fault. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot to put on anyone. And while I don't think this show, because of its age, and by the way, very quickly, I want to correct something I said earlier because we will get messages. 2005, this show started. 2007, it ended. So it started when Half-Blood Prince came out and ended when Deathly Hallows came out, just before I get the messages. So I think it's because of its era, it doesn't get the opportunity to explore that stuff to the depth of a show like Steven Universe, which is a more modern show and was allowed to look at the mental effects of that in a much more detailed way that just would not have flown on Nickelodeon in 2005.
Yeah.
So it's there, and it's absolutely there, and it isn't even subtext, it's absolutely text, but it isn't outright explored. And I guess the explanation for that is Aang, being a monk, is just mentally more equipped to... He's going to struggle with it, sure, but I think Aang handles his responsibility better than Steven does. Not to keep bringing this back to Steven Universe, because I imagine anybody who listens to this and doesn't know Steven Universe gets frustrated when we keep referencing it. But it is our most recent discussion reference point. So yeah, there's a lot going on with Aang's stuff in this episode, to say the least. And how do you feel about that counterpoint, though, that it maybe recontextualizes his earlier behavior in that first episode?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I mean, the main thing I was thinking when you were talking was that, you know, if he's got a reluctance to tell people he's the Avatar, thank God he hooked up with Katara, because she'll fucking tell anyone, won't she? Continuing that theme.
Throw him under the bus every minute.
Yeah, which she did again this week. Like,
yeah.
You're the Avatar. He sure is. Like,
yeah,
all right. He didn't sound excited about it.
She might as well walk around with it. She might as well walk around wearing a t-shirt that's like Avatar fan club with like Aang's face. Like, yeah.
I think that is a fair counterpoint. I think that is a fair counterpoint. Yeah.
But I don't think it necessarily changes this episode, though. I think your criticism of it being a bit quick is still kind of valid. I think, but you've got. But I just don't know how else you would do it, because even if you had more time, let's say the episode was longer, right, and it was just focused on Aang's backstory, what do you actually do other than show more of him training? Like, I was trying to figure out what the narrative of that would be, and I was like, I just don't know. And also, how much time do you want to have passed? Because you don't want him to have learned any Avatar stuff yet, because he needs to learn that on this journey. So I was kind of juggling with that as you were sort of talking about it, because I was thinking, I don't know how I would have done it differently. Did you have any thoughts on that, or
no? And I think
was that just a general vibe you got when watching this piece?
Yeah, no, I think again that is fair, and I suppose not. Maybe it's not even so much about the time he knows. It's about, like, they find out in that context. Because to be fair to the show, whilst it feels like it has a lot of weight in those first two episodes, he's also a 12-year-old boy who wants to go penguin sledding. So they do set the... Do you know what I mean? Like, they do set their cards on the table with it.
And they deal with that here. They have him wanting to play with the other kids, but when he gets named the Avatar, that was heartbreaking, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's probably my favourite moment of the the Aang flashbacks. Like, that was quite, like, brutal. That was shitty. So, you know, again, that recontextualizes the first episode. Now he's got people he can play with, you know?
Yeah, isn't that funny how and also recontextualizes why he doesn't immediately say he's the Avatar. When those other kids found out he was the Avatar, they didn't want to play with him anymore. The mind of a 12-year-old, right? Like, he's so mature, I think, partly because of his monk upbringing. You know, he was taught to be sort of forward-thinking and a bit more adult and, like, a bit more aware of himself and stuff. But he is still at heart a 12-year-old. So while it's easy to forget he's 12 sometimes, because he has these moments of maturity, you know, there's times he just wants to go penguin sledding, and when you put these two episodes sort of together, as in the very first episode and this one, really does paint a picture. It's quite, it's amazing how things that seem kind of arbitrary and like they were just trying to let us know, Aang likes fun in the first episode, actually you go, damn, he was pretty recently made to feel pretty shitty, and then his one friend that he did have left, who he'd have fun with, Monk Gyatso, was being taken away from him. And then the other heartbreak, which is my one criticism of this episode, is revolving around this as well, but I'll come back to that in a second. But the heartbreak of discovering Monk Gyatso wasn't going to let them do that and was going to come and take him away or whatever. But Aang was already gone. That sucks. That's like, if only he'd like chosen like 10 minutes. Like, do you know what I mean?
But
like,
as Katara says, Dan, it was meant to be this way. He was meant to freeze and come out now. And...
Sure, absolutely, but it doesn't take away from just that. Aang, like, you were so close to getting what you wanted. You know, like he was gonna help. He was gonna do the right thing. It's kind of.
Can he only speak to past avatars, or is there any way potentially he'll be able to speak to him?
It's a thought. It's a thought.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something I would you know, confirm nor deny, but yeah, it's certainly something that crossed my mind as I was watching these early episodes. The idea that he might be able to communicate with, because we've established a spirit world now, so there's a question of, well, is it just like these sort of ghostly apparitions that live in the spirit world, or do human spirits go there after death? Like, it's a bit, at this point, it's kind of unclear. So. Yeah, it's definitely a question. It's definitely a question I was asking.
I can't hear the term spirit world without thinking, why is Uncle Fire Dude able to see the spirits? I keep coming back to it, and if it's like that fucking chest in Steven Universe, you know, then suddenly everyone annoyed about the chest, I'll fully sympathise with them.
I think I see that I never know what to say when you talk about that, because like there's something I could say that will, I think, sort of align your expectations correctly, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, either excite you for a more clear answer or disappoint you like out the gate. But like I don't want to do either of those things. I don't want to like reveal anything that's gonna. I like you. I'm kind of enjoying you just torturing yourself about it weekly.
Well, that says to me that it's a thing that will be given explanation, but you have to like the what were the bears for on Lost? That's answered, but you have to sort of piece it together. But all the pieces are there to answer it. Maybe it's something like that then, from what you're saying.
Maybe it could absolutely. I suppose that the third option is sort of an answer, but a sort of less direct one, a more subtle one. Yeah. Baked into the existing show. Yeah, that's a possibility. From my perspective, one, I'm enjoying you squirming about it every week and questioning it every week, but also like I don't want to give anything away if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
I know. I thinking back to these first sort of 10 episodes, especially as I was editing them this last couple of weeks, I reckon I did give you a little bit more information once or twice than I should have, but thankfully we've proven you very forgetful, so I think I'm getting away with it.
Yeah, I reckon, and I've not done. I find it weird. I hope, comment below, I guess. But I feel like I've not done a lot of theorizing, unlike Steven Universe. And obviously I'm not reading the Wikipedia, so that's part of it. But
to clarify, there's a running joke that Chris accuses himself when he gets things right of having read the Wikipedia to undercut anyone actually saying that. Because Chris, for those who don't know, Chris had a spookily accurate record for theorizing on Steven University. But can I posit, Chris, a theory as to why you're not doing it very much?
Yeah, go on.
It's because you've seen these already, and theorizing at this point is a nil-sum game, because you're either right and it's like, oh, maybe that was just somewhere in my subconscious. You'll never be able to get the satisfaction of going, I was right, until we get to season 2. You can start predicting all you like in season 2, because I think, we'll have there'll be a lot more scope for you to do that without it potentially being attributed to some sort of, subconscious memory that you're not actively pulling forward, but is still somewhere in there,
Mm.
Speaking of, actually, while we're here, Chris, it's the 3rd of November. I don't know why. I just want to point out that we are at this week, the 7-year anniversary of you watching the final episode of this season.
Oh, are we? Nice.
Yeah, somebody mentioned, you guys got to meet Bo Burnham in the comments to the first episode, because we talked about that's when you last saw it, was the day we went to see Bo Burnham. And I said, yeah, it's exactly right. We actually got to meet him as well. And I linked the picture, and then I saw the date on the picture, which was the 9th of November, 2013.
Oh, nice. It's probably like literally around this time we were watching these episodes then, maybe.
Yeah, it was that day. It was that day. It was we watched them and ate dinner and then went to Bo Burnham. It was the Saturday. I remember it vividly.
I think it's different. I somehow, but I can't put my finger on why. But I feel like there's less to guess with this as well, somehow. But maybe I'm just, because of Steven Universe, because of Adventure Time, because of Infinity Train, I'm just like, the answers will come. Do you know? Maybe? Yeah. I don't know.
Or is the series just at this point raising less questions?
Yeah, that is part of it as well. Like, how many questions have actually been raised, apart from why is Fire Dude able to see the spirits? But do you know what I mean? Like, it's not even, there's not been a lot of questions about Fire King. There's not been, maybe that's fair. And
I think the show is just, it's because it's not setting itself up as a show full of mysteries, It's giving you the basics of the world early on, and now it's trickling you the rest of the information.
But
and
also,
that's just kind of a pattern.
Do you think it's a tone or stylistic thing of in Steven Universe and actually Infinity Train as well?
Mm-hmm.
Things are happening to the characters which are weird and strange for the characters that they don't understand. There's not meant to be monsters in Steven Universe. There's not meant to be a train that appears out of nowhere in Infinity Train. Whereas in Avatar, there is an Avatar, the character. So it's if things are less of a mystery for the characters, it feels less of a mystery for the audience.
Yes, because I think you've actually nailed it. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? Steven had things he didn't know about the gem world, and admittedly he wasn't necessarily asking questions, but it was clear he was often like, "What is this?" So there was an element of you being on that journey with him, going, "Yeah, what is this?" Whereas in a world where all the characters know what's going on, you've just not been clued in yet. You go, "Well, I'll find out." They'll mention it eventually. The characters all know, so it's going to come up.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Whereas Infinity Train's a great example as well. You've got a lead character that's mysteriously just been pulled onto a train. They have a number on their hand. They don't know why or what it does or how to make it go up or down. It keeps changing. They're also on this weird train where a bunch of weird stuff's happening. It's just question after question, and so you're pulled into that mystery. Whereas this show, there's none of that. That's a really good point. I think you've actually hit on the exact.
I think
reason.
That might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe combine that with, your experiences on the other shows and learning to trust a little bit more, as well as a reason. I think that covers it too.
Yeah, I think so. Did you have any other notes or triv, Dan?
I got some of the bits I wanted to talk about this episode. Some of the. I've got triv as well. There's not a lot of it, so we'll go through the notes first, if that's okay. I just wanted to point out a couple of moments I found really funny. Sokka not wanting to tell him about his dream, but then saying Momo could talk in the dream, and then he turns to Momo and he says, "You said some very unkind things." I just thought that was so weird and quite funny. I also enjoyed when Sokka first. I also enjoyed when Sokka first woke up and he says, "What's happening? Did we get captured again?" That's chef's kiss. I made a note that this episode does a bit too much foreshadowing in the early parts. Clear skies should be smooth flying. The episode is called The Storm. That is the most on the nose foreshadowing I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, it's pretty unnecessary as well, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they go to a shop and then fill up the basket with food. And then realize they have no money. But she doesn't say it in oh, damn it, we have no money. She goes, we have no money anyway. And it's like, well, then why are we all filling a basket with food? I do not understand. Really weird. I also enjoyed your joints against my brain when they were figuring out if there was going to be a storm or not. That just tickled me. I also like the Sailor Man's hiring policy. Sokka's like, I'll do it. He's like, okay, you're hired. And I also enjoyed the paying double joke where Sokka's like, since you're paying double, he's like, who said that?
He was like, where'd you hear that madness or something like that? Like, that was great. That made me laugh.
Like I said, those two are just an absolute...
I'd quite like a spin-off with those two.
Yeah, I would watch that show.
And it could be anything. Like, I'd watch them host a cooking show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, cooking fish, obviously. The other thing, actually, I wanted to ask you about this. I thought this is interesting. They did a little mini plot, a little character arc for the main fisherman, where he was kind of angry at Aang because he was like, yeah, where were you for 100 years? And that's what set Aang off on his journey of sort of, dealing with some of his own feelings about himself there and coming to terms with it.
Yeah, he has the dream before then, but yeah.
What was that, sorry?
He has the dream before then, but yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, 100%. He'd had the dream where Gyatso, like a dream version of Gyatso, basically asks him why he disappeared, which is, and then he vanishes into ash, which I thought was a really dark image in an otherwise kind of funny dream where, Katara was flying on a giant Momo, which was, as a visual, by the way, that was very good. So then at the end of the episode, the fisherman's like, well, I don't know about any of that anymore, but you saved my life, so I guess we're cool. I was just wondering if did you think that was necessary to like push Aang? And did we need the little wrap up where he was fine with Aang again? Or did we not need that? Because I debated in my head whether we needed that or not.
I think it added texture to the episode. It added a sense of this pressure and this attitude towards him building. And things getting out of hand. I liked Katara standing up for him. I thought that was quite nice. So yeah, and a nice arc for the fisherman as well. So yeah, no, I think I would still include that in the episode because it doesn't take anything, like, to take it away doesn't fix anything that was broken. Do you know what I mean? So I think other than it feeling a bit deliberate to pile it onto him. I think it adds some texture to the episode.
It is another hand of the writer moment where you feel the writer pushing the story in a certain way, which is something, I think cartoons have gotten a bit better at. Like, I feel like things like Infinity Train and Steven Universe do have a more organic, and Owl House as well has a really organic way of pulling people into the story and along with the story, whereas this sometimes feels like you almost feel the finger of the writer coming in and poking a character down a certain path, and I think that is just this is a show on the cusp of a sort of shift in animated TV. This is a show partly responsible for that shift, so it does a lot of things differently to shows at the time, but it's also got some of the trappings of shows of the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I did say earlier, I had one criticism of this episode. Just the one. And it's a shame, because I don't know how you fix this. I don't have a solution for this, because it's a brilliant moment, and I wouldn't want to lose it. But, Chris, if Aang is telling Katara the story, how does he know that Monk Gyatso went into his room after he'd left and said, "I'm not going to let them take you away, me away from you, don't worry." Like, how is that part of the story?
Yeah. A good point.
The rest of it, the rest of it works perfectly. Like, the rest of it is fine. It's all exactly what they would have seen and done.
But do you think that's you being slightly spoiled by just how well Steven Universe sticks? Not that for some reason we brought Steven Universe up a bunch this week, but I guess maybe because it's a mythology episode. But you've been slightly spoiled by how well Steven Universe fits to that rule of if a person's telling the flashback, it's very much from their point of view and what happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe, but I'd expect that from most shows, would you not? Like, if somebody was telling a story, you don't expect scenes that they couldn't have been present for to be in that flashback. I mean, it depends how you set up the flashback. If it's just if it's someone specifically is remembering something or telling a story, you expect it to be their perspective. If the flashback is just like Arrow style, it's just showing you other things that happened previous in time, then you're looser, because it's not like Oliver is telling the story. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know Arrow's a weird example to pull from. It's just the one that popped into my brain. But do you know what I mean? Do you see the difference between the two styles of flashback?
Yeah, completely. Completely see that. But I think you're right. There is I can't think of a solution either. But it is like
because you want that scene, right? As an audience member, you love to find out that Gyatso wasn't going to give up on Aang, and then you feel an ache of pain knowing that Aang ran away for no reason because Gyatso was fighting to keep him there and not send him off to the Eastern Air Temple. So it's like, that's also douchebag of the week, maybe, for the fucking, what was that dickhead monk? What was his deal? He's not training. Well, I've decided he should be having some fun. Like, that's allowed. He's a child.
It's Nobed Hall of Fame. Should he be in the Nobed Hall of Fame for that?
I wondered, and I don't want to be the one that keeps pushing for this. We've still only had one entry, but do you not think he was a bit of a Nobed, like sending him away and stuff? That doesn't seem like it was the best. Had Aang's best interest at heart.
I kind of feel like it was probably his job. I suppose he did send the other guy. He was going to send the other guy away. Yeah, so it's not. So he's not getting nominated for Nobed Hall of Fame or Nobed of the Week. Is it Nobed of the Week or Nobed Hall of Fame?
Nobed Hall of Fame. We were going to do Nobed of the Week, and then we basically went, we won't be able to do this every week because there isn't always going to be a Nobed, so we called it the Nobed Hall of Fame.
So your logic for the nomination is not that he's particularly strict and harsh with Aang. It's that he specifically sent the friendly monk away.
Well, he was going to send Aang away. He was going to send Aang to the Eastern Air Temple away from Gyatso. Yeah, I thought that was a cruel move. I mean, clearly they're a very good mentor-mentee thing. They're clearly very good friends. Aang is going to need guidance through these times, and someone he trusts is valuable, right? Like a monk should definitely understand that.
It's not as unnecessary as the other. Like the other Nobed of the Nobed Hall of Fame was just like there was just no reason for you to do that. I can see his reasoning,
yes,
but it is a dick move.
You get the final word. You get the final word on Nobed of the Week or Nobed Hall of Fame.
I can't do it. I'm so sorry. I can't put a monk in Nobel Hall of Fame.
Not after you already shat on
Yeah.
the Buddhist method.
Yeah, not when I've already inadvertently joked about a Buddhist tradition I didn't realise was a Buddhist tradition. Yeah, no, I can't put him on no. I think you can see Nobel Hall of Fame is like, there's no explanation for that. You're a Nobel. Which that other guy, I think, was just being so. And I want to make it very clear now, I can flit and change these rules at a whim. That is my right.
You are the arbiter of the Nobel of the Week, Nobel Hall of Fame, and therefore you reserve the right to just go, no, that guy definitely deserves it, even if he doesn't fit the rules you're arbitrarily making up to disclude
even
someone
if he
now.
just stole someone's pizza. I just don't want, I could easily put someone in Nobel Hall of Fame because they stole someone's food, and I don't want people being like, So yes, but no, I don't think we can put the monk in. I think he was doing a job, and he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, quite literally, Dan.
Yes, that's true. They knew there was a war coming. His intentions were good, even if his methodology was.
And that is set up in the episode as well. So yes.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. How did you find the Fire Lord in his brief appearance in this episode intimidating? And the secondary question to that: did you recognise the voice? First time we've heard him speak.
I didn't pay too much to the voice, so no. But yes, I found him intimidating and cool. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was also like when I first watched this, like blown away that Zuko's scars had come from his own dad. Like,
yeah, exactly. So who's the voice then?
It's Mark Hamill.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah, he plays a great villain. He's between Star Wars is a lot of I'd say a reasonable portion of the world sort of think Mark Hamill just disappeared, but actually he found a really great career for himself. I know you wouldn't think that, but the household naminess of Mark Hamill sort of vanished, and I think to the more casual sort of observers, that he just sort of didn't do anything for many years. He just lived on his Star Wars money. But the reality was he actually found an incredible little career for himself. I say little, that's really dismissive. I don't mean it to be. But he's built a career for himself in voice acting, and he was the Joker for a great number of years in the DC Batman series, and had done video games and stuff as the Joker since he is probably one of the most iconic Joker performances next to maybe Ledger's. Like genuinely that good. Like it's remarkable.
If you look at a lot of rankings, he's often like his second place. Like,
yeah, it's and getting a guy who voiced one of the best villains in animation history to voice another villain, that's just smart casting.
Let's not forget, Dan, he also played Cockknocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yes, he did. He did
another
indeed.
Great villain.
Great. You gotta love it. I think Fire Lord really super intimidating at this stage. Let me have a quick flash through my last couple of notes just to see if there's anything else that I haven't talked about yet. Oh, during the Agni Kai, there's the shot of Iroh in the crowd, looking away in anguish as his nephew is sort of mauled. Did you notice anybody else in that crowd shot? Anybody stand out to you?
Oh no.
Okay, well, behind him, I will tell you, was Admiral Zhao.
Oh, really? I assume being like, "Go on, son!" Like, woo! Like,
basically, I mean, he didn't look disappointed at the situation.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool.
Let's have a look. Anything else? Oh, Iroh redirecting lightning. We haven't covered that. That seems like a big thing that happened in this episode.
I've refreshed my memory of what.
So during the storm, a lightning bolt hits the ship, but Iroh holds one hand out and takes it, and then shoots it out away from the ship with his other hand.
Yeah, so he's Uncle Fire Dude, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so what the fuck's going on with him? Yes, I meant to bring this up earlier. Like, he's seeing ghosts, he's got lightning powers, because I was like, well, can that be connected to the fire stuff? And I was like, I don't think so, unless is it like the spark? I don't know. Like, yeah.
I'll tell you now that I will with no fear of anybody telling me I'm spoiling anything, that does get thoroughly explained.
Okay, cool.
But yes, I remember when I first watched that episode and saw him do that, I was like, that's amazing. Like, incredible.
Yeah, I think I couldn't bring it because there's so many cool. Because obviously, also Aang going to the Avatar state and bursting them out and stuff. There's so many cool visuals in that, and I think that's also where my time question on the flashbacks came. Because if there's any area that I think you do definitely want to see more of, the fight is for a show that's had 5-minute long fight scenes before. That sort of storm battle, it all happens really quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like you've barely worked out
true.
why they're underwater before Aang is taking them to the surface.
Yeah, that's fair. No, it would have been nice to get some more time with those because such cool visuals. So I totally understand that. So I think that is everything. Yeah, everything in my notes is covered. So do you want to? Should we head into the murky waters of Triv?
Yeah, go for it.
So we'll start with this one just because we've already sort of talked about it a little bit. But obviously in this it's shown that Aang chose the 4 toys that determined his destiny, and they were a clay turtle, a string-powered propeller, a wooden hog monkey, and a wooden hand drum. This method is akin to the one used to determine the next incarnation of the Tulku Lama in Tibetan Buddhism. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I don't know, because I always wondered how I'd have to look this up. I always wondered how they decided who the Dalai Lama had been reincarnated into. Like how, I think there's a person whose job it is to know who the next Dalai Lama is. So that kind of makes sense. But the Tulku Lama, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, obviously a different role and is determined in a similar way with the toys. So there you go.
There we go.
I thought that was quite interesting. And again, a really great thing for the show to keep respecting these like cultures that it's sort of cribbing from.
Yeah, I think it's really important to respect traditions like that.
Yeah, I agree. And plumb them for all they're worth in terms of your TV show. Makes the show feel really authentic. It does make the show feel really like, it's a show.
I think it's what we talked about earlier, with the world just feeling very defined and that,
lived in.
Yeah.
It exists and it makes sense to them. Yeah, agreed. Everything feels deliberate. This is one of the creators of the show's third favorite episode, Michael Dante DiMartino. He thinks it's, I guess at some point he's ranked his top 5 or something, and this trivia has taken out that this one was his third. He particularly enjoys that this story goes into depth on both Aang and Zuko's pasts. Little warning to people, if that's in the trivia, I assume at some point we'll come across his second and first favourites in the trivia of future episodes, so look forward to that.
Keep an eye on that.
When Aang asks Gyatso if the council might have made a mistake when they say he's the Avatar, Gyatso says the only mistake they made was telling you before you turned 16, meaning that other avatars are not aware of their status until 16th birthday. I can confirm for you now that's exactly what happened with Roku.
Okay.
But as a little tease for you, Chris, we will on screen see another exception to that rule at some point.
Okay.
Different circumstances, not the same. Not quick panic. Tell them they're the Avatar because war. But there is another Avatar, either from the past or going forward, that has to that also is aware at a younger age than 16.
Okay, that's in the future or the past?
I'm not going to confirm that.
Okay,
either way,
intriguing.
But Aang is not the only one who sort of bucked that rule for whatever reason. Thought that'd be a nice little tease for you. Since last week's tease was a complete shit show because I said frogs, and frogs aren't related to this episode, but the one after.
Did you realise that after or on air? I can't remember.
No, I think I said on air, oh shit, it might be the one after, but then I just sort of left it, I think. So I'm sure I got lots of comments about that, so thank you everyone who commented. I figured it out pretty quickly thereafter.
I can't wait that, because nothing will annoy you more than not, because you obviously that goes up in 9 weeks, so you'll forget.
I know.
And then you'll get loads of comments, and they'll all be like, in fact, if anyone could replicate this exactly, they'll all be just like, what do you mean frogs, Dan? That's got nothing to do with it.
The thing is,
I think you're thinking of the week after.
Have something to do with the next episode, so that is my tease for you for the next episode.
Cool. Good.
In the scene where Zuko He's begging his father for mercy. Oh yeah, this is a weird one. Plenty of people in the spectators in the crowd are clearly seen wearing green, blue, and yellow. This is a little unusual because usually people in the nations tend to wear colour schemes related to their nation. I don't know why that. I don't know who set up this dress code society, but I guess it's for a kids show. It's a visual way of telling you who you're dealing with and where you are. But generally speaking, Water Nation people go with the blue. Earth Nation go with the sort of greens and yellows. Fire Nation go with the red, and obviously the Air Nomads wear those pajamas, as Nadia calls them. It's a bit odd in the flashback that there are people with multiple coloured outfits in the background. Shrug. I think it's probably just a bit of an oversight, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
That's not trivia. Oh, this is the last one. I got the last one. This is a good one. So the watermelon that the merchant tries to sell Katara and makes a swishing noise, and she's like, "I'm not sure that's a good thing." And she's like, "That means it's ripe." That actually resembles an old trick merchants were using in the 1900s in China. In the early 1900s, I should say, when they would try to make melons heavier by injecting them with like foul water from a river or a creek. But it led them to a swishing noise. But it made them heavier and therefore worth more.
Yeah, cool.
Because watermelons were sold, I guess, by weight at the time. So it's a little nod to that old trick, that old chestnut.
Fair, or watermelon, as the case may be.
Yeah. So there you go. Sorry, this one overran a little bit. I think to be fair, there's a lot to get our teeth sunk into with this one, wasn't there?
Yeah, to be fair, I think people won't be surprised. They'll just, if anything, they'll be like, they'll be disappointed when the chat doesn't really start about the episode for a good 5 minutes.
Doesn't it? I think it's, what were we talking about at the beginning then?
Oh, like I thought we jumped and stuff.
No, that was midway through. We went straight into it this week. The election stuff came a little bit later.
Yeah, no. To be fair, we do. I think this is probably our most actual episode chatter.
Yeah, and I also think that it's the quickest we got to the show. I think we literally went, analysing Avatar, this is the one about this. What do you think, Chris? I think I actually, this week, we got started really quick.
No, it was me. Immediately...
We then got distracted.
I jumped in with my... it's my fault, because I jumped in. I kind of immediately was like, do you think the juxtaposition is... Yeah, so yeah, no, you're right, we did. Yeah. We did go pretty deep, pretty early. But I think this is an episode where you'd expect that.
Yes, yeah. Whereas, I think we talked about the Great Divide and Jet probably more than needed.
No, Great Divide.
Certainly the Great Divide.
Although again, Great Divide, great album by Hanson. No, great song by Hanson on their fourth album, The Walk.
Oh dear. Next week's episode is called The Blue Spirit, and my tease beyond the frogs is simply that the storyline for that episode spins off as an outcome of the actions and the events of this episode.
If it's a whole episode about them getting dry after the storm, I will be very happy.
That's exactly what it is. How did you know? Yeah, it does. The next one does kind of follow more directly on in that sense. Like the events of this episode push us into the story of the next.
Worth saying, you say Blue Spirit, Blue Sky, another great song on Hanson's fourth album, The Walk.
You know far too much about Hanson. We're going to have this out one day and figure out why that is.
I'm thinking of doing a video at some point about why Hanson don't get the credit they deserve.
I would love to. We'll get that out there. We can make it Patreon first, and then we'll get it on the YouTube. Do it.
I just think, they've been... The very fact that they've had a career for 25 years, I think it is alone, is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, Alien Ant Farm still have a career, so I guess it's possible for anyone to do it.
Really? Do they still... When was the last time they released anything?
They had the album a couple of years ago that was fan funded. And then I think they had a single out this year.
Yeah, fair play.
That's a good
Oh
question.
yeah, 96. Look at that. I think they came out a similar time to Hanson.
Yeah, there you go.
They haven't released as many. 2015. So they haven't had an album in 6 years.
No, they're working on one though, and I think they have put a single out. Yeah, they put a single out. Everything She Wants, May this year.
Was it any good?
I think it was a cover of like a Wham song. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, fair play. Well, it's worked for them before, hasn't it?
Yeah. I love Alien Ant Farm. Chris loves Hanson. It's weird. We'll move on. I think both of us know there should be at least some shame associated with those choices.
Oh, I got none though. Absolutely none.
Yeah, but you're aware there should be, right? Like, I have none either. I love Alien Ant Farm. No question.
I'm aware other people have it. But as in, other people think there should be, but no Hanson fan. Like when we went to see them live, Jess wore a Hanson t-shirt, and I was like, "Cool t-shirt." She was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Well, obviously I'm wearing it ironically," and I was like, "I know that, but you seem to think everyone else at the gig will realise that." And she was like, "Well, yeah, of course they will." And I'm like, "No, they won't. They've paid and are excited to go to a Hanson gig. They're going to take that with complete sincerity." And they absolutely did. She had many a compliment on her t-shirt, and they were genuine compliments. Because obviously,
did she feel a bit shitty about wearing it ironically and then getting everyone being...
No, because they, as I knew they would, the gig sort of seeing the reaction of the crowd to them, and like they are, obviously people only know them from Mbop, but they are fundamentally good musicians and good songwriters, and so that won her round anyway. But I was just like no one here is here ironically, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I point out a comment we received 6 minutes ago on episode 1 of this podcast? So episode 1 went up today. We just got a great comment.
God, Chris. I hope this doesn't become a podcast where they end up talking about Hanson for 10 minutes.
Yeah, how did you know? No. The comment has a timestamp, and then in quote marks, "Fire Dude, an older Fire Dude. Can we keep those names going till the end?"
Very much so.
6 minutes ago from a listener whose username is Namadu. So I am absolutely liking that. It's great. Absolutely. And you called it. Absolutely called it. We're 12 episodes in and Chris is still doing it. So.
Yep. And again, not ironic.
So.
Cool.
Let's do some quick admin. Patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. If you'd like to give us as little as $1 a month, you can get access to these episodes 1 week early. And when we finish the first season of Analysing Avatar, we are coming back with everyone's favourite, our most popular podcast, Rewind Reviews, which is where we look back at old movies from our youth that we really enjoy and maybe sometimes slightly scared don't hold up, or maybe sometimes we just really want an excuse to watch them again. It's been an absolute blast to do Rewind Reviews. The last season we tackled like Bill and Ted, Shawshank Redemption, Little Shop of Horrors, Italian Job, A Goofy Movie, Lady and the Tramp, what else? The Back to the Future trilogy. And I can tell you right now, when we do come back with those, we'll be starting with a movie that is so terrible I can't even explain it in words, called Joe's Apartment. So that will also be coming a week early to you lovely people on Patreon. One thing I haven't said every week is because I always go, the next episode is The Blue Spirit. If you want, you can listen to that right now over on the Patreon. And I always neglect to add, unless you're already on the Patreon, in which case you have to wait a week because you're getting this one a week early. I always forget about that part. It must be quite mean for the patrons to listen to me go, it can be heard right now on the Patreon. And they're like, but I'm on the Patreon, and it's not, is it? That's not how it works. Obviously, week delay, yeah. But you can always get ahead of the game if you want to do that right now. If you're excited to hear us talk about The Blue Spirit, as little as $1 a month, we've had a big upsurge in and I say big upsurge for us on Patreon as a result of this podcast. And I'm very grateful for everyone who has so far donated. I might start maybe from next episode doing like a Patreon of the week where we just name someone who's donating to us. We've got enough that we could at least do that for a bit now. Before there were so few of you that we would have run out very quickly. But I reckon we've got enough patrons now that I can start doing that. So for future shout outs, anyone wants to join us on Patreon, you're welcome to, and we'll see if we can keep that, how long we can keep that going. Otherwise, all the usual places, youtube.com/nothingbutstatic. We're on iTunes and Spotify and Amazon, and if you go review us on there, often you can do it in-app. That massively helps. Or on Twitter, I'm at Dan Doolan. Chris is at C. Billingham. All that good stuff. And you can send us messages either via that or at mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk. So, with that all said, that's everything for this episode. It's always I always feel like we've got too much admin at the end of an episode, but then I listen to other podcasts and it's even longer, and I'm like, we're okay.
Yeah, we also don't have any ads or anything, so
yeah, I guess like This episode was
very
sponsored by
generous
Food Cart, a new service that gets food to your door.
Yeah, exactly. So we're very. I think we allow ourselves a bit of self-promotion at the very end. I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And while we're doing a bit of promotion, let's do a little bit of not self-promotion. Head over to Instagram.com/Raphodraws for the very, very kind creator of the artwork we use for this podcast, who continues to just be the nicest person. Has been absolutely awesome with everything. At one point, right before we released, we had a wobble and decided maybe we'd put like a filter on the artwork so it matched some of the thumbnail art we'd done. And then we were like, no, that's really rude because it's such a great piece of art. And we'd already asked Rafa if we could. Rafa was like, and when we sent a message, before even Rafa replied, we sent a message going, ignore us, it's disrespectful, we don't want to do it, we like the art better as it is. We were lured in by the potential for matching. And Rafa was just like, I wouldn't have cared either way. It's fine. Do you want like the nicest person?
I still stand by the decision to not, though. I think.
We were just tempted by the unity of it. That's all it was. We both knew that the art stands on its own and doesn't need any filters over it, and that it's a great piece of art. We both knew that, and we both preferred it. But we just were tempted by that notion, weren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
It'll match the thumbnails we've designed. But no, absolutely not. This was the right way. So yeah, massive thanks. You can also go over to launchlinks.io/u/Raphodraws to get access to Raphodraws, like I think Redbubble account or one of those like websites where you can do like merch, and there's like mugs and t-shirts and stuff with art that Rapho's put together. Some amazing stuff. Like there's some really cool art that looks great on t-shirts. Like I don't know if it was drawn with that in mind or if it was just really good art that happens to translate to that, but there's some really good stuff on them. So you can absolutely go support Rapho. And that is everything. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Excited for the next episode. I don't know. We don't have a recording date quite for that yet, do we? So hopefully within the week, because I would like these two to be, if we can, recorded reasonably close together. I don't want a big gap if we can avoid it because of them being a little bit more linked.
Sure we can make next week work.
We'll figure it out. So yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Fundamentally, Dan, the UK's just gone back into lockdown, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Yeah. How people in January? How is that lockdown still going?
Yeah, no doubt.
They've told us we're going to be in lockdown for 4 weeks. They've given us an end date for the lockdown at the start of it, which is different.
I've had to. It's caused havoc with work because we had some physical filming booked that's obviously now having to be sort of worked out if we can go ahead or rearranged or whatever. But
right.
Nobody has conceived to pushing anything back to December because nobody believes the lockdown will be finished by the 2nd of December, which is what they've said. It's not even been entertained by anyone.
Little note, I don't know if you've seen, but all of the UK productions for film and TV are still being allowed to go ahead.
Oh, I think there's a lot, way in my limited experience so far, but not just like in speaking to other people about their jobs and stuff, there seems to be way more of an approach this time of, whereas last time no one knew what the hell was going on, so everything just stopped. There seems to be way more of an attitude of work's work, this is work, so we're going to do it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like places are still delivering stuff that weren't delivering before, and, you know, people are having, you know, meetings if they need to. So yeah, I think there's way. It doesn't surprise me at all that television productions are still happening because their guidance is if you can't do the work remotely, you can do the work in person, and you know they can't film EastEnders remotely, can they? So
no, yeah. So apparently that stuff is all fine. There's a lot more loopholes this time for sure. So anyway, we have digressed yet again. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We just like talking to you so much. That's what it is. Just suck up to the listeners, Dan. It's fine. It'll be fine. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you guys hopefully in a week's time, unless you're on the Patreon, which you can get it right now, for our episode discussion of The Blue Spirit.